Up next is Dr. Mark Nasila. He's the Chief Analytics Officer, F&P Risk at FirstRand, and is going to talk about AI and data analytics, the power of data analytics. Mark, I will hand over to you. The floor is all yours now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you this afternoon. I'm sure you've enjoyed a lot of sessions about artificial intelligence, technology. But I thought I should speak to you about the era of AI and its impact on the future of business. They just published now, the market of AI is expected to reach 118 billion by 2025, projected to almost 270 billion by 2027. Why is this? We're at a time where the challenges we face require us to leverage technology. Those of us with businesses, we've got now digitization, which is just not a nice thing to have, but an expectation. So we have to leverage AI, and a lot of you are here because you're coming to learn how you can run your businesses more efficiently. You're here because you want to keep up with emerging risks, for example, climate risk and other risks such as cybercrime. And this is the reason why we need to discuss AI. So through this discussion, I'm going to introduce to you what AI is. I'm sure a lot of speakers have spoken to you about what AI is. I'm going to touch a bit on a difference between AI, deep learning, and machine learning. Then we're going to touch on what AI applications are out there, how other industries have applied AI. Then we'll talk about how do you set a foundation to make sure that you innovate or disrupt yourself for the future using artificial intelligence. Then, just like any other strategies, AI also needs to form part of a strategy. How do you strategize using AI? Then we will finish off in how do you make sure that you as an organization are set up to succeed. Now, to begin off, in trying to define what AI is, I thought we should look at the recruitment area. I'm sure a lot of you guys have gone through recruitment, or you're busy recruiting in different areas. You've had to leverage technology, LinkedIn, maybe recruitment agencies to acquire people with the right skills. How is a startup called Staffori reimagining the recruitment process with AI? Have a look at this.
So, why should we hire you?
Well, I think I'm the perfect candidate for the role. I love analyzing and organizing and executing these kind of complex projects. And also, my master's degree in corporate law is just the kind of academic background that I think would help me excel.
I'm sorry, but I don't believe that you're the person we're looking for.
Really? I'm sorry, I don't think you fit our profile. 4 years experience in delivering projects, and the majority of them on time and within budgetary estimates.
Well, you have all the qualifications and experience for this role. It seems like you're the perfect candidate.
Really? Thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure, Nadia.
Now, that is Vera. Vera is designed by Alexander Raksin of Staffori. And the question is, why would the likes of L'Oreal, PepsiCo, and a lot of banks in Europe leverage Vera to streamline some of their recruitment processes? Vera was trained by hundreds of thousands of job specs, interview data, candidate responses, as well as types of recruiters who carry out recruitment processes representing various organizations. Now, Vera can interview up to 1,500 people for the same position and provide a summary including shortlisting the top candidates. It's very difficult in this era for any organization to get to the right skills at the right time because of some of the digital challenges. But at the same time, a lot
Sorry,
of
Mark,
organizations do make mistakes.
sorry, Mark, to
Because of
interfere.
consistency or because of human issues, for example, biases, where you employ someone who's not suited for a certain position, or even sometimes employ someone with the wrong skills in a certain area. And when you look around what has been happening, especially with the challenges
Mark, we
faced
seem
in
to have lost your
2020,
slides.
where we had to resort to remote working because of the pandemic challenges or even other challenges. We had to scale up digital channels. We had to make sure we implement flexible terms for customers. You had to repurpose our staff to focus on new challenges or even emerging risks. Um, we have to offer substantial discounts to our customers. There is clear need that the reality out there is the need to leverage AI to streamline these processes to be cost effective, to keep up with the digital expectation of the customers. But this is not just about the pandemic. It's not just about, okay, leveraging technology to keep up with these challenges. You've heard a lot about the fourth industrial revolution. Even before the pandemic, we were at a time where emerging technologies, which include AI, were already changing the way we live, the way we work, the way we relate to one another. In fact, when you look closely, I mentioned earlier, digitization is not just a nice to have, it is an expectation. So
Hi,
just
Mark. Sorry to
very
interfere you. Mark, can you
what
hear
is
me?
AI? AI is an area or field that deals with making systems, processes, or machines execute functions with the same intelligence as human beings. Some of these functions could be decision making, understanding language, generating speech, identifying objects, and very, very many others. There's lots of them. We can't talk about AI without talking about machine learning, which is a subset of AI that deals with enabling machines to learn very complex patterns through algorithms and make decisions with very minimal supervision. While deep learning is a subset of machine learning, which is motivated by the structure of the brain. That's why they're referred to as deep neural networks or deep learning neural networks. And basically, they're more aimed at, they're centered around helping generate features that machines would use to imitate the same functionality humans being used to execute human intelligence. But AI has not been new. AI has been there for a long time. You can go back to the before 1900s when the Egyptians and the Greeks used to mold gods. You've heard about the gods of the Hephaestus. And the significance or the mathematical evolution of AI began around the 1940s when a bunch of scientists decided to build a machine that would perform some mathematical calculus functions the same way human beings would have done, and they were very, very successful. And this led to actually to the evolution of the Turing test, which basically was a test that assessed how close machines will perform as close to human beings. But this also gave confidence to the evolution of artificial intelligence as a field. And in 1956, the likes of John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky coined, formally the word AI, artificial intelligence, as a field that will deal with building or developing machines that will execute human functions. So AI has been there. Why are we seeing the successes of AI today? The first is exponential growth of computing power. We've got more computing power. The systems today can handle a lot of information, a lot of data, whether it's real time or not real time. And as you see from this graph, over time, you know, we've seen machines able to execute a lot of functions that could not be executed before because of their ability to process a lot of information timelessly, the same way, you know, animals or human beings would have done. In fact, a lot of scientists predict it was expected around 2048 or 2050 that, you know, machines will be able to execute human functions comfortably as human beings. And because of advancements of computing power, this timeline is being pulled closer and closer and closer. The second reason, which I'm sure a lot of speakers touched on, is the exponential growth of data. Technology and globalization has meant that having a device is something that is normal. The device technology is much, much closer to our human life. There's a lot of data that is being generated. We're seeing 88% of unstructured data, which is mostly human data, which allows us to actually train machines to learn a lot about human functions and human behaviors. We're also seeing a structured data, which is mostly normally transactional data, type of data, continue growing because emerging technologies are bringing the digital, physical, and biological worlds together. So this means that there is expectations as well. And in the past couple of years, we've seen the combination of data, computing power, and the growth of algorithms, a variety of algorithms that are able now to solve the types of problems we see today, able to help data scientists or a lot of organizations put their minds together and solve some of the complex problems. And that's why if you look at the likes of Smart City, they've come up with programs like the Smart City Dubai program that has placed data at the center of reimagining their cities, including making sure they align some of their strategies to what they want to achieve from a societal perspective. You go to China now, you've got approximately 70 million surveillance cameras, which leverage deep learning techniques to make sure that they do survey and understand what are the social aspects of security within the cities. So this means just by looking at a document or certifying a document does not make it safer. AI capabilities have the abilities to identify tampers or any counterfeit issues that actually fraudsters of today leverage technology to actually create these documents. Medicine, biology, and agriculture is being reimagined. It's, for those of you who don't know, when doctors get into your body to perform some of the complex operations, it's very, very difficult for them. They have to cause a lot of damage to get into your organs. But also sometimes they need to be precise, especially when dealing with very sensitive organs. So right now we've got what's called RoboDoc, where with the help of AI, a doctor could be, for example, in Cape Town and you're in Pretoria, and they will remotely perform an operation. And we'll see a lot of these applications continue growing. Education is a big, big problem. And for example, in the science and mathematical areas, we have a shortage of teachers. We're not all of a sudden going to have teachers like that. So if you go to Dubai, AI-enabled robots are helping teach calculus. How are they doing it? They've been trained using syllabus plus the best teachers in calculus, and they're able to stream quality calculus lessons across the country. And this is one way where AI is being used to solve for education. Autonomous cars. Over 1.3 million people die every year from accidents. 1.3 million. 94% of these accidents are because of human error. And the reason is very simple. We are limited with the amount of information we as human beings can process at a time to be able to make safety decisions. But at the same time, we make mistakes. For example, we drink and drive, or sometimes our concentration might be limited. But what's more exciting when you look at the bottom right there, is Tesla's ability to be summoned using a phone. Now when you come out of your from shopping, you are able to summon your car, and you don't have to spend a lot of energy and time walking to the parking lot or looking for your car. You're able to summon a Tesla car and get it to you. Just another example, the construction industry is also being reimagined. What you see on your left there is the first architectural design generated by Stanislas, who just got his PhD recently. And this means that this area is also being disrupted. We're going to see AI systems generate some of the most complex buildings at very low cost, including the ability to enable engineers to leverage drone technologies to go and inspect power plants and issues like that, so that proactively we can prevent certain system failures. That is a reminder that every single industry is going to be reimagined or disrupted to be able to prepare for the future much, much better. This is why Gartner estimates for the next few years, there's going to be a 54% growth, year-on-year adoption of AI-related projects. But not every organization is going to succeed. The next stage of the presentation now, we need to discuss how do you create a foundation so that your business can have a proper impact of AI. How do you do that? Now, when you look back to history, there's been two schools of thought that have driven innovation using technology-related adoption. And I want to start looking at the business of banking, where a few years ago, a bank in the late 40s, a bank was a place where you would go in a building and move your money, or store your money, or invest your money, or get credit. And as the business of banking, its demand grew, or the banking utility demand grew, we saw now the adoption of technology. And this is where the first mainframe was invented. This was developed by MIT for the Bank of America, called ARMA, the Electronic Recording Machine of Accounting. It introduced some efficiencies. It could comfortably do a job 17 bankers did in the space of a few minutes. But the business of banking, or its services, grew based on the demand. And we saw now the banking services move out of the branch. The ATMs came, as technologies kept on growing. Then banking moved to the internet, as the internet was invented in the 80s. Then we have virtual voice assistants as well as chatbots. You're able to chat to a virtual assistant, or even to your banker now, and request for banking services. Then we've got AI-enabled chatbots and even voice assistants such as this one.
Hi, Mark. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. We seem to have lost your slides there, so we can't hear the voice that you're playing.
Okay. Can you see the slides now?
If you can try to reshare.
Can you see them now?
Yeah.
Okay, let me know if I should continue.
Yeah, sure. You can continue, please.
All right, thank you. Apologies about that, technology issues. So just to summarize, you see, while new technologies have been invented over time, the finance industry has, has applied or executed its value proposition through these technologies over time. And this is what we call innovation by iterative thinking or design by analogy. It has worked very well for a lot of organizations. When new technologies come up, you go and extend or scale up your value proposition through it. But something has changed. When you look at what is happening, the digital experience or is an expectation. The globalization and technology mean that you cannot continue just planting your value proposition or your old solution onto new technologies. And this is why 84%, one of the reasons why 84% of companies fail at digital transformation. Let's look at the second approach, first principle thinking. For example, when the British in the 1750s decided, we need to change the way we move from A to B, they invented the steam engine. They totally changed everything. They went back to the drawing board and said, no, we need to rethink the way we move from A to B. They even, they created the middle class jobs and, the road industries and things like that. Second example, the Americans ran the Apollo program to lift the Skylab to the moon for research purposes. It cost them almost $1.2 billion of today's value. Elon Musk comes with SpaceX. He goes back to the drawing board, leverages 3D generated titanium bars with soft landing pads to allow when the rocket lands, the material is not destroyed so that he can reuse it for the next trip. And it costs him less than 5% of what it cost the Apollo program. One of the key projects I was involved so much at FNB is the Manila, an AI system that enhances the risk management process. Instead of the forensic analysts collecting a lot of information manually, putting together reports, writing some analysis and outcomes before they make decisions, we reimagined the whole process, went back to the drawing board and repurposed our staff. And instead of spending days to get to a decision, it takes Manila about 13 seconds to generate a whole written forensic report. The whole concept of going back to the drawing board and redoing something or reinventing something is what we call first principle thinking. So while both of these approaches have worked, they have implications today in a technologically driven world. When you look at these graphs, the red graph is obviously those who will say, no, they don't innovate, and you know what happens to them. They say, no, they didn't do anything wrong. But you can see that they get disrupted fast, very, very, very quickly. When you look at this graph here, the first disruptive point actually even happens from those who innovate through iterative thinking. And then you see the ones in blue are the ones who wait for technology to be invented. And then they research about technology, demonstrate value, then they use it to disrupt, and mostly they disrupt their peers. While the green line is the ones who are first principle thinkers. Steve Jobs, who said, listen, I'm not going to polish the Nokia phone. I'm going to go back to the drawing board, design a device that can have applications and use the internet to connect to other platforms. They envisage the future and create a totally new future around that industry. And this is what is driving disruption. And that's how we need to think of using AI. Now, just like any other strategy, as I said, we need to strategize using AI. And you've got to have a purpose. You've got to have use cases. Do you want to create AI chatbots to drive digital customer engagement? Do you want to drive AI compliance management like the way we did at FNB with Manila? Do we want to enhance and automate processes so that you can your operational costs can be lower? Or do you want to enhance customer experience to automate their process of engagement and to get to their decision quicker? You need to think about a data strategy, because most of AI-enabled initiatives leverage data, and it has to be the right data. You need to think about legal and ethical aspects. The gap between organizations that are doing very well in AI and the ones that are not is widening. And because of that, the ones that are doing well are already dealing and learning from the ethical failures. And you need to keep that in mind. Cross-cutting technology and infrastructure that will allow you to implement your use cases, cross-cutting skills. The skills that used to have in the normal traditional data science versus the skills that are AI are different. And therefore you need to think about the right data science skills, the right culture. And the previous speaker spoke about, the data scientist world, and including the ways of working to allow them to be productive and solve problems much faster. Then think about implementation. AI is only useful when it's part of your decisioning or part of your new operating model. And always don't forget change management, because one, there's lots of fallacies around AI taking jobs, and it's important that you articulate the new role of human beings going forward. But there's something else that we need to think about: society. And everyone is asking now, what are you bringing to the table beyond your services and products? What else are you bringing to the table? And when you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, which are domains of challenges society is facing, from poverty, hunger, climate inaction, reduced inequality, up to gender equality, we have to make sure leverage AI to design products and services, but also make sure that they're solving for some of these challenges. But some of you would ask, but how do you do that? But that has implications. So the whole culture of leveraging technologies such as AI to design products and services and push them through various channels, called the omni-channel strategy, is dying off slowly. In a platform-driven world, we've got a ubiquitous strategy where your business is embedded in the world through technology, and AI capabilities enable you to not only push your products and services, but also solutions that will enable solve some of the social challenges. Let us look at an example of how this has been done using Tesla. In 2014, Tesla announces they're sharing their IP. And it was a very strange decision, because at the time, Tesla was only selling 22,000 cars a year, very young in the market. When Elon Musk was asked about this, please listen to what he said.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk has just announced on the company's website that the company is going to be opening up all of its patents for other automakers and others in the auto industry to use.
It is rare and it is bold. Tesla is sharing its secrets, opening its patents for the world to see.
We haven't seen this type of move from any automaker.
What is driving your recent decision to essentially not pursue intellectual property claims on your own patents?
But I think it's important to bear in mind that we're really all on the same ship, of being Earth. If Tesla succeeds, but then the sort of climate is destroyed, I'm not sure that actually helps Tesla. A ship-based analogy might be appropriate here, where it's like, let's say there's a bunch of people on a ship and there's a bunch of holes in the ship, and we're quite good at sort of bailing the water out of our section. And we've invented this nice bucket. It would be foolish of us not to share that bucket design, because if the ship goes down, we're going with it.
You guys are the proof of concept from a market perspective. If you start making a lot of money, if you start showing that people will buy your car, then you're going to see the rest of the industry flood in.
Exactly.
100%. So all along, Tesla was not, and Elon were not so obsessed about their competitors. He was much more focused about the environment. And this is a great reminder that while technologies like AI can help you have a competitive edge against your peers, you might lose a bigger picture, especially at a time when a lot of customers and even employees within organizations are much more loyal to organizations that uh, are solving some of the societal challenges. In fact, I don't know if you follow the World Economic Forum. Every time we solve these problems, it's not just philanthropy. You're not just going to there to, to solve a problem and assist. Four of these sustainable development goals have almost $13 trillion worth of economic value. So you could create new industries, and even your own customers will defend you when things go bad, because they know very well your strategies are always aimed at them, at some of their challenges. My last area talks about how do you set yourself up. You know, while we speak about setting yourself up, uh, just when looking at data-driven organizations, while 97% of organizations are investing in data analytics and AI-related capabilities, only 23% of organizations as of 2021 are data-driven. Now, when you even go deeper into AI capabilities, the proportion is very, very small. And so much research has shown that there's a lack of literacy and cultural aspects around AI as well as data-related subjects. Uh, One of the chief data analytics officers, Aidan Miller, compares it to an orchestra where topics like AI and data are just being spoken about by either experts in the field, for example, the AI specialists and data scientists, as well as stakeholders, but yet the other part of the organization is left out. So you end up not not having you're not having operate on the same wavelength. And if you think about it, this has got very, very heavy implications where 65, for example, 65% of data-driven initiatives are met with resistance. 75% of employees are even uncomfortable working with data. How will they even embrace AI? This is even strange. A third of employees take sick leave from work because they're uncomfortable about technical topics. A lot of organizations, executives in organizations cannot make data-driven decisions. Well, the benefits of having data or AI executed businesses are very, very overwhelming. It doesn't guarantee any organization to succeed if you're not speaking the same language around technology such as AI or even big data. So you need to do something. Make sure you create programs that all of you understand fundamentals about data, basics of analytics methods where you can speak the language of data and AI, handle issues like data privacy and ethics, because there's a concern that some of these AI systems can go against human aspects of life, biases, data-informed decision-making, and understanding how this form part of the organization's strategy. To go through my last slide, to make sure that you set yourself up for success, create awareness in your organization about AI. Talk about data, talk about digital transformation, talk about AI, and make sure your whole organization is literate. Make sure you're compassionate around you sell these ideas. Don't talk so much about profit. Also sell the value of these capabilities through how employees and customers will benefit, and build it as a core capability. Make sure you promote initiatives or innovations around AI, whether it's efficiencies, use cases, product development, customer engagement, disruption use cases. Create strategic partnerships. AI is research driven. America is doing well because they're leading force in research and discovery. Academic institutions play a central role in advancing research in improving algorithms. Industry partners also can contribute to how some of the challenges are facing. It's very difficult for one single organization to have a holistic view of cybercrime. But partner with your customers. Let your customers be willing to give you data because they understand you've got their individual interests at heart. Then lastly, create knowledge to mobilize the practice, communities of practice. Subscribe to journals, build skills of development within the organization. And this will help you to execute much faster because you need buy-in from the whole organization. To finish off, the time to reimagine and modernize your organization using AI is now. Do not wake up tomorrow when you've been left behind. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mark. Although we had lost some of the slides earlier, but your presentation was very informative, and I think those are very good examples of AI use cases. And I think, like you're saying, the time to reimagining the AI in our organizations is now. We need to implement AI now. We need to come up with AI strategies and so on. Thank you so much, Dr. Mark, for your time. We really appreciate. We're going to take a very short break now, and we have our final presentation. I know that we are running behind schedule, but just bear with us 1 minute. We'll be back and with our final presentation, and that will be coming from Camilla, the managing director of Untried, and she will be talking about beyond the buzzword, how AI changes the way we work. Thank you so much. See you in a bit.